This is WPTV News Channel 5 at 11.
A fourth night of protests coast to coast. Emotions raw as tonight a former police officer charged in George Floyd's death.
We don't condone any kind of unnecessary force.
Local law enforcement leaders are speaking up about conversations right now in our own communities. Breaking tonight, unrest around some places in the nation. Last night, demonstrations in New York City and Atlanta turned violent as protesters on the West Coast march in the streets of Sacramento and Las Vegas. Outrage growing this night after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis police custody. And tonight in Minneapolis, protesters defy the mayor's 8 o'clock curfew. Hundreds of buildings destroyed or damaged after 3 nights of often violent protest, fires and looting throughout that area. Then all of this coming as an ex-police officer now charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter in Floyd's death. Derek Chauvin's mugshot just released. Daryl Forges has more.
Derek Chauvin, the former police officer who kneeled on George Floyd's neck for more than 8 minutes, now charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. Charging documents now show Floyd was unresponsive for nearly 3 of those minutes. The big question many Americans have been asking, with disturbing videos of what happened to Floyd out there, why did it take so long to file charges?
I thought that it was a little slow. I'm not a lawyer, but I thought that if anybody else would have done that and caught it on tape, we'd have been in jail immediately.
The prosecutor says they've never charged a case that quickly.
We can only charge a case when we have sufficient admissible evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. As of right now, we have that.
New video shows at least 3 officers kneeling on Floyd.
I'm not going to speculate today of the other officers. They are under investigation. I anticipate charges.
Now, a preliminary autopsy report is showing no physical findings that support a diagnosis of traumatic asphyxia or strangulation, but the combined effect of Mr. Floyd being arrested by the police, his underlying health conditions, and any potential intoxicants in his system likely contributed to his death.
In Martin County, Sheriff William Snyder stressing the importance of community interaction and says he does not, of course, condone any kind of violence or unnecessary force. Tonight, WPTV News Channel 5's Derek Lowe spoke with them about the video that has caused a nationwide outcry.
Law enforcement leaders nationwide are taking notice to the unrest in Minneapolis, and Sheriff William Snyder here in Martin County is no different, saying it's up to him and his deputies to earn the respect of residents.
There are people in different communities throughout the country, Martin County, no exception, where there's a sensitivity, there's a sadness about what's occurred.
Sheriff Snyder says that he's seen the video of George Floyd pinned down to the ground by an officer's knee.
This is not good for anybody. There's nothing good that comes of situations like this.
He says he's keeping an open dialogue within the community and those voicing their concerns, a reality that's not new after decades of law enforcement.
The conversation about law enforcement's interaction with minority communities has been going on for a long time in the United States. This is not new.
What was seen on a Minneapolis street is not something taught nor allowed, according to the sheriff.
We don't condone any kind of unnecessary force.
As for larger conversations about policing and community trust, Sheriff Snyder says people will find their own takeaways.
I think the challenge for us as Americans is to have some kind of consensus and to work hard, because we have to have law enforcement. Cops are not going away. Underserved communities are not going away, so we have to learn to work together and to prevent what we're seeing, not just in Minneapolis, but in other cities around the country.
Sheriff William Snyder says his chief concern has and always will be public safety. In Martin County, I'm Derek Lowe. Back to you.
We also spoke today with Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw. News Channel 5's Sabira Rayford asked the sheriff about his push to ensure his deputies see and learn from the Floyd arrest video as part of ongoing training on use of force policies.
Well, they're up to speed, and that's what I wanted them to do. I wanted them to look at that, and then I wanted them to go back and revisit our policies to make sure that everything that was in place was reinforced, to make sure that all of the policies reflect what our training does, and the fact that that is never going to be allowed under any circumstances.
And to watch more of our interview with Sheriff Bradshaw, please visit our website, WPTV.com. Tomorrow in Lake Worth Beach, there will be a vigil and march in response to the death of George Floyd. Organizers say they're unsettled about the violent protest, but equally unsettled about what they see as silence in too many communities.
The state that this country is in, everybody needs to unite, and everybody needs to come together.
Organizers say the vigil begins Saturday night at 8 on the steps of City Hall. They will march a half mile to the city's Cultural Plaza and Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. An 8-minute silence will be held, the same length of time investigators say the police officer placed a knee on Floyd's neck. And we will have local, in-depth perspective with community leaders as the events continue to develop. West Palm Beach Mayor Keith James and Urban League of Palm Beach County President Patrick Franklin join me for To The Point this Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on WPTV News Channel 5.
All right, high humid day across South Florida today, and we're starting to wind down some of the inland showers and storms that we've had here, and they're starting to finally go away, but still a little boundary right there. We still could see a couple spark up, so I've kept a slight chance. Only isolated coverage overnight. Temperatures right now still in the 80s. It's warm, it's sticky out there. Hour by hour forecast keeps that slight chance of rain just going, just very slim chance. And then low temperatures tomorrow. Mid-70s, so it'll stay rather warm. High temperatures tomorrow, first day of your weekend, upper 80s again. Showers and thunderstorms, summer-like pattern firing up in the afternoon. We'll time those out for you coming up in a bit.
Right now, a health advisory issued for several Treasure Coast swimming spots because of elevated bacteria levels. That includes Layton Park, the Roosevelt Bridge, Sandsprit Park, and JC Park. The health department says runoff from heavy rain could be contributing here. The water will be tested again on Monday. New at 11, we're seeing the first numbers for COVID-19 antibody testing in Florida. Those numbers come from data collected at drive-through sites in West Palm Beach, Miami Gardens, Orlando, and Jacksonville. The state health department says more than 123,000 people have been tested so far, nearly 5,500 positive for antibodies. It's the breakdown of results in our 5-county viewing area, and health officials say there are still questions as to whether being infected with COVID-19 and developing antibodies provides protective immunity. Tonight, the state opening more coronavirus testing sites. Governor DeSantis announced today testing sites will open in the parking lots of some Public and Home Depot stores. The short list includes the Home Depot location on Glades Road in West Boca Raton, and the goal is to make testing more easily available. It's free to be tested, and you'll get the results in 5 to 7 days. A deadline is looming tonight for those struggling with rent or mortgage payments. A state executive order days from expiring, one that stopped evictions and foreclosures during the coronavirus pandemic. WPTV News Channel 5's Todd Wilson with insight from a real estate attorney on how there is still time to take action.
On April 2nd, Governor Ron DeSantis signed an executive order staying all residential evictions for non-payment of rent, a moratorium that's been extended until June 2nd, but as of now could expire at 12:01 Tuesday.
I haven't decided yet. Pretty soon. I mean, we've got a bunch of different things that are expiring.
Friday, we spoke with real estate attorney Phil Riva about what landlords and tenants should take from this.
For residential tenants, don't be so sure that you can't be evicted, because non-payment of rent is only one ground among many grounds that a tenant can be evicted on.
For instance, a tenant could be evicted for housing unauthorized residents or for illegal activity. Those kinds of evictions are not prevented under the governor's order.
A lot of tenants are walking around thinking they're immune, and a lot of landlords are walking around thinking that they're powerless to do anything. Well, that's not the case.
But with June 2nd just days away, there's still time to start conversations with your landlord.
My advice to them is to try and work out a resolution without jumping into a court action, without filing an eviction lawsuit for possession against their tenants.
Riva says if a landlord is determined to evict someone, there are also steps that need to be considered.
Like Palm Beach County, for instance, you can file the suit, you can serve the tenant, the clerk of the court is issuing summons against tenants, even residential tenants that fail to pay the rent, and you could even proceed to a judgment of eviction.
But as far as taking possession of the property, it won't be possible until after June 2nd. Even if the moratorium ends, you still may have some time if your landlord's mortgage is federally backed. It forbids them from actually filing evictions until July 25th. So what you need to do, head on over to our website at WPTV.com, and there will be a link there, and see if those rules apply to you. In Palm Beach County, Todd Wilson, WPTV News Channel 5.
And you can get updates on the coronavirus pandemic on air and on our free WPTV News app. We also have a section of our website dedicated to coverage, WPTV.com/coronavirus.
New at 11, a deal's been reached to compensate dozens of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. WPTV confirmed late tonight a tentative agreement involving the disgraced Palm Beach multimillionaire's estate and the Attorney General of the Virgin Islands. The Virgin Islands is the location of Epstein's main residence. The AG's office has been working closely with Epstein's victims on the terms of a fund. Last August, Epstein, a convicted sex offender accused of abusing underage girls for years, was found dead in a New York jail cell. The financial terms in this deal are not known yet.
Tonight, we're working to get an update on a double shooting in Delray Beach. Police tell us a 10-year-old rushed to the hospital this afternoon. A 29-year-old man also injured in the shooting at the Auburn Trace Apartments. Police don't believe the injuries are life-threatening, and at this hour, investigators have not identified the shooter. In 60 seconds, take two on the return to space effort. All eyes on Florida's Space Coast and the forecast as SpaceX attempts an historic launch. And cleared to reopen, we now know when guests can return to Orlando's theme parks. Rising from the rubble of Hurricane Dorian, the rescue dog Miracle making the most of his second chance in South Florida.
This is News Channel 5 at 11. Thanks for making WPTV South Florida's most watched television station.
All right, we're looking at some thunderstorms still out there across the state, and look at where they're raging right now at the moment, right over the launch site. Good to maybe get it in now, but still a pretty good chance for some of these over the site tomorrow at 3, 4 o'clock or so. We know the afternoon thunderstorm drill here, and it's moving right through the Cape at the moment. Now, farther down, a couple of showers are starting to taper off around the lake or so. Keep a slight chance for a shower in the forecast here overnight, or even a rumble of thunder with a couple leftover boundaries, but it's not going to be as abundant as last night. Temperatures, we're looking at the low 80s. It's muggy out there, and temperatures will stay pretty muggy through the night. We're looking at only lows into the middle 70s, 76 in West Palm, 74 in Vero Beach, and then high temperatures tomorrow. Everybody pushing into the upper 80s. It's going to be hot and humid. It'll feel more like the upper 90s or so with all that humidity out there. And we do have a chance for showers and thunderstorms. So let's time that out. I think by the morning, we're looking at an isolated shower possible. As we get into the afternoon, the sea breeze does form. The better chance will be the Treasure Coast and the Space Coast too. And then you see a lot of it here coming down to the lake area, but it could push back towards the Treasure Coast once again before finally clearing on out. And then we're looking at a frontal boundary to sag a little bit south, maybe a little bit less chance of rain on Sunday, but a greater chance on Monday as that front starts to push into the area, and that spills over into Tuesday too as the wind comes onshore and may blow in more showery weather. Watching this too, this is now up to a 50% chance, so a medium chance to develop out there. It's tangled up with a couple upper level lows here, but it does have the opportunity to become a next tropical system, but it will not bother us at all. It's not going to bother anybody. It'll stay out into the Atlantic and be a record breaker because we haven't seen 3 named storms before January 5th. January 5th is the record of that. Some afternoon storms and some swell from that out in the Atlantic will start to reach Treasure Coast tomorrow. So that's really the only effect, and rip currents up there too. Palm Beaches gets blocked by the Bahamas. Highs into the upper 80s to near 90 the next few days. Again, rain chances a little bit higher tomorrow, a little bit lower Sunday, a little bit higher on Monday and Tuesday. Breezy and a little bit cooler and a little bit less humid on Wednesday. Final look at the first alert forecast. Over the weekend, highs in the upper 80s. Chance of showers and thunderstorms there. A little bit greater on Saturday than Sunday. And then we pump it up on Monday and Tuesday with the front coming down and washing out on top of us. That'll bring in some more moisture there and some windy weather Tuesday, Wednesday.
James, thanks. And local coverage you can count on continues at 5 a.m. The Tonight Show next. Continuing coverage on our top stories at WPTV.com and our PTV app. As always, wishing you and yours well. Good night, everyone.